Barnaby Jones, starring Buddy Ebsen. Also starring Lee Merriweather, with guest stars Geraldine Brooks, Jerry Hauser, Andrew Parks. Tonight's episode, The Murdering Class.
Stop horsing around. We'll never get finished in here. A lot of tables still need chairs, you know. Oh, put Mrs. Ogden next to the minister. Maybe he can shame her into buying some tickets for the tennis fund. I certainly couldn't, even though I am headmistress. Don't forget those flowers. Tomorrow morning, first thing here.
Oh, Janet.
Yes.
Your brother.
Thanks, Victor. George.
Looks very nice.
Oh, hope so.
Oh, I found 10 of these medieval histories you wanted. Now, if you need any more, I...
George, those are very heavy, and 10 is fine. But why don't you get one of the boys to help you?
Oh, no. They have their job, and I have mine. I think I've been sober long enough to carry my own weight, and 10 medieval histories.
George, thank you.
I'll put them in the office.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've done about all we can for tonight. And some of you have some midterm exams to study for. Thank you.
Paul, what are you doing here?
Boy, you gave me a scare, Mr. Enright.
What are you doing here, Paul? Come on out. Come on.
Well, I'm working student desk this week. I came back because I left a book. I'm cramming for exams, so I gotta go.
You opened the private file, didn't you, Paul? How'd you learn the combination?
I didn't take the money.
All right, please, Paul. I think we better go talk to my sister about this.
I didn't take anything, Mr. Enright.
Paul,
I didn't take anything. What's the rush?
You got it, didn't you?
Charles, listen, George Enright caught me at it. It's awful. We gotta get help.
Haste makes waste, Paul. Now tell me again, without the emotional embellishment.
I didn't mean to.
Tell me, Paul, what's awful?
I think I killed him.
You think? Now, if you're ever going to be a newspaper man, always make sure of the facts. Come on. Back to the scene of the crime. Well, Paul, this makes you the first murderer I've ever known.
I'm gonna call the police. Operator?
mouth is dry, dear boy. The adrenaline is short-circuiting your brain and you'll botch everything. The police, bumbling as they are, will ask questions. What were you doing there, Paul Thayer? And your buddy, your pal, Charles Lomax, what brought him to the headmistress's office? Do you want to tell them all that, Paul?
What are we gonna do?
Hang in there, Paul. You take the head. I'll take the feet. Come on, Paul, he won't bite you. Bottle. Let that be a lesson to you. That's what happens to alcoholics who can't stay away from their booze. They get into all kinds of terrible accidents. Sometimes fatal.
And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun. For the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. And he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true. And the Lord God of the holy prophet sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must be true. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keepeth the sayings of the prophecy of this book. Amen.
I can do, would you let me know?
Oh, of course, Ron. Thank you. Thank you. Well.
Are you all right, Janet?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. It was a lovely service. I appreciate it.
I'll call on you later.
Right.
Sure now.
Go on, get out of here. I'm fine. Barnaby Jones?
Yes, Miss Enright. You have my sympathy, Miss Enright. I didn't know if I should come now or...
I'm glad you did. I want my brother's name cleared. Whatever it may cost.
Well, since I was driving through town, I stopped and had a talk with Lieutenant Roth.
And did he convince you that George stole that money?
Well, let's say he made a good start.
Mr. Jones, Lieutenant Roth didn't know my brother. I'd like to tell you about him. This was George. He loved books. When we agreed that I'd take control of the school, he insisted on earning his keep, as he put it, by staying on as our librarian.
Am I right In your statement to the police, you said that your brother gave up drinking about 8 months ago.
Yes, as soon as I'd officially taken over the school. I assumed that he just no longer needed whiskey as an escape from responsibility.
What do you figure set him off drinking that night?
I don't know how George got to the cliff. I don't know how the whiskey got on him. I don't know how the money from the tennis fund got into his pockets. I only know one thing. My brother. He didn't need to steal. Look, this shelf here, all first editions. This set of Longfellow alone, it's worth thousands. If my brother wanted money for liquor or anything else, he could have sold it. Was the man who lived here a thief?
This is called doubles, Lomax. Now in doubles, you let your partner hit the ball when it comes into his side of the court, okay?
Oh, good Lord. Mid-year finals here all next week, and then the SATs, and then the University of California stuff.
What difference does it make? You're gonna flunk them all anyway.
Everything under control, Eddie? Paul?
Yeah, no sweat, ma'am. Here, Mr. Cather, please. You take this booklet and you read it carefully at your leisure, and if you have any questions whatsoever, you don't hesitate to ask anyone in this office, okay?
Well, Paul, we'll need to... Oh, Janet. I didn't think you'd be in today. Why, I can handle anything that comes up.
I really want to, Victor. This is Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, this is our college counselor, Victor Stern.
How do you do, sir?
How do you do, Mr. Stern?
As you know, I wasn't satisfied with Lieutenant Roth's reports, and so I've asked Mr. Jones to come from Los Angeles to make some further investigations for me. If he needs anything, I know you'll give him all the help you can.
Of course, Mr. Jones. Anything I can do.
Thank you, Mr. Stern.
Paul, I'll need 50 copies of this college requirement.
Yes, sir. 50 copies right away.
Game, set, match. Nice going, guys. Ross, I want to show you why that second serve of yours isn't working, okay? Lomax. Now, maybe you got the rest of the school conned into thinking that you're the greatest since sliced bread. But on a tennis court, you're nothing but a second-rate grandstander.
Lucky idiots, we can beat them any 4 out of 5 sets.
Yeah, if you'd let your partner play, Lomax.
When I draw a lousy partner, Whitney, I have to try to carry him.
Big deal.
Charles, I gotta talk to you.
Only 1 autograph per customer, please. Did you hear that grandstander crack? Boy, you give a guy like Fannin a little authority and he turns into...
Listen, we're in trouble.
The official verdict was accidental death while intoxicated. Official.
Yeah, well, you know that guy who came in late to the cemetery? He's a private detective from L.A. that Enright hired.
How do you know?
Because I keep my big ears open, that's how. He's up in her office right now going over the whole thing. I'm telling you, he's gonna find out.
He won't have time to find out. Not if we handle it right.
You've handled it so far, and we're going down the drain.
No, Paul. Neither of us is going down the drain, nor down the tube, nor up the creek. A little spice has been added to the brew, that's all.
It was an accident. I'm gonna tell.
You You are not gonna burn yourself, and you are not gonna burn me. Do you understand?
What are we gonna do?
We have to make sure that our tall, straight, gray-haired private investigator from Lotus Land finds his criminal, don't we? And clears the blot from the Enright escutcheon.
But how?
We have to throw a little light on the in the woodpile. I was thinking that it's inconceivable that Paul Thayer, class vice president, honors student, etc., is the type of young man who goes around robbing people and killing them in fits of temper. But he is. Full of psychological hang-ups, understandably uptight about his position. Yes. I'm afraid Mr. Fannin killed old George. Strong, powerful man with a hot temper. He's liable to do anything. Even murder.
Hello. Hello. Mr. Jones. I'm Paul Thayer. This is Charles Lomax.
Oh, how do you do?
How do you do, sir?
Thayer? Lomax. Yeah, I've been reading about you. You are, president of the senior class, edited the paper. A lot of school activities.
I'm from the East, Mr. Jones. I learned to stuff ballot boxes at my father's knee. Is there anything we can do to help, sir?
Well, yeah, there might be, especially since you're on the paper. Any idea how this flash bulb got in the closet?
I can't imagine, sir.
Why, Paul, this is the size you use. You must have dropped it.
Me? How could I have dropped
Our layout on George Enright, remember? You took 3 or 4 shots up here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. I guess it's mine. I'm always losing them, you know?
Oh.
Do you have any offices besides Los Angeles, Mr. Jones, working with other private investigators?
You know, that's as good a loaded question as I ever heard. 3 pieces of information at 1 crack. Where did you hear that I was... Well, of course, all good newspaper men know what's going on around them, don't they?
You are investigating Mr. Enright's murder, aren't you?
The inquest didn't seem to find any reason for assuming murder. Did you discuss your theory with anyone else at the time of the inquest?
No. Then I wasn't sure of my ground. But I'm very sure of it now. And there's a lot more than meets the eye in this whole tragic mess, Mr. Jones.
A witness talked to Charles.
And when I was going back to the dorm from the auditorium, 10:30 or so, I saw somebody go in the administration building. That's where Miss Enright's office is. You know.
Recognize him, Willie?
Not exactly. It was too far away. A man, definitely. Just a guy. Medium build.
Well, that's not very much to go on.
I thought of one of those borderline facts, too, but possibly enough to have the verdict questioned.
Yeah, well, as I say, that's not very much, but you never know. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Good luck on those exams.
Did I do all right?
Not bad at all. Bit of the hook, bit of the line, next the sinker.
But I don't get it. Why didn't you want me to give him the name?
It's been almost a week, you idiot. You can't wait all this time and then up and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention it, but I happened to see Ron Fannin, the tennis whiz, up there with old George the night he was totaled. Police are like turkeys in November. Start feeding them a bunch of garbage, they get suspicious. Now, Paul, got your checkbook handy?
My checkbook?
Write out a check for $100. Payable to the tennis committee fund. Let's see, today's the 17th. Old George died the 14th, dated 2 days before that, the 12th.
What's the idea?
Just do it, Paul.
What'd you have me write it for if you're just gonna burn it?
You've got to feed them their clues bit by bit. That way they'll swallow it all. I have some good news and some bad news. First, the good news. You've dug far enough. Now, the bad news. Open it. It's getting late. Open the coffin. How about that, Paul? He's smiling at you.
Who's gonna do it?
Why, you. You're responsible for the poor man's demise. It's the least you can do. Gently. I think we're ready for the final touches. Mr. Fannin himself.
What's all that, Miss Enright?
They arrested Ron Fannin for murdering George.
What?
Lieutenant Roth said that George must have surprised him while I was trying to break into the cabinet. He killed George. Then he tried to make it look like an accident.
That's a mighty far cry from their first verdict.
That first verdict was death while intoxicated. George couldn't have been drunk.
Let's see the boys first. Fannon's with his lawyer right now. He goes before Judge Perry for arraignment at 4 o'clock.
Things are moving pretty fast, aren't they, Hank?
Hello, Mr. Jones. They bringing you in on this officially?
I understand you three have had a busy day.
Look, you understand why we couldn't bring everything to you first.
Perfectly, but Lieutenant Roth and I aren't in competition for a prize. We're both in the same business.
Yeah, same business, different pay.
Lieutenant's been telling me that you boys been poking around down below the cliff and you came up with some new evidence.
Charles found it near where they found the body.
A Wimbledon button.
I've heard of Wimbledon tennis, but what's a Wimbledon button?
This, Barnaby. It's like an Olympic button. And this is his official Wimbledon blazer we found in his closet.
Oh. Oh, you were lucky to find it.
Oh, yes, sir. We thought the police might have overlooked something when they searched the area originally. And we all know how understaffed this office is, so...
So, with the button, plus what Grant here told us, I got a search warrant and it paid off. Made out by Paul Thayer to the Tennis Committee Fund. We found it in a pile of ashes in Fannon's fireplace.
I thought all the loot was on Enright.
Well, when Fannin suddenly found himself mixed up in a murder, he planted everything on Enright to make it look like an accident. He overlooked that and burned it when he got home.
Well, pretty dumb not to have made sure it burned completely.
Well, maybe, but I'm not about to look a gift horse in the mouth, Barnaby. Especially if he's dumb enough to leave the murder weapon around.
A weapon? Well, Hank, looks like you got this whole thing wrapped up.
Fannon's cellar. These hairs were stuck in the switch. They were caught there after he caved in Enright's skull, after Enright caught him stealing.
The medical examiner confirmed, of course.
They check against those from the autopsy. The victim's hair, definitely.
Well, looks like I've only got one question to ask you all. When is the hanging?
Well, I don't need a private eye. I need a lawyer.
I'm not looking for a fee, Mr. Fannin. I have permission to talk to you if you want to talk to me. How about it?
You can't help me a bit. Somebody's got me in a box and they want to keep me here. No, I don't want to talk to you, Jones. Now, damn it, would you leave me alone?
I know you're mad, Mr. Fannin. I don't blame you. I just don't believe you're as stupid as Lieutenant Roth must think you are. The case they got against you is pretty convincing. If people want to believe you pulled a dozen dumb moves in the space of an hour.
Okay, let him in. Now, what's in all this for you?
Well, I got myself right in the middle of something I sure didn't expect. All of a sudden, funny questions started getting funny answers. I don't know quite how to explain this to you, but there's something sticking way inside of me here. I don't know if that's my craw or my gullet or what, but anyway, there's something sticking in there, and I want to get it unstuck, that's all.
Yeah, well, I got a belly full of my own, too.
Well, let's start spitting them out. Do you know what Roth is counting on, all of it?
Well, there's the flashlight, there's Mr. Enright's hair, there's the blazer button, the tennis fund check, the fact that I knew that there was a couple of $1,000s in the safe.
That's a pretty neat package.
Yeah, but to begin with, I don't even know the combination.
The beauty of circumstantial evidence is that nobody has to prove how you got into the filing cabinet, only that it's obvious you did.
That's about as logical as Willie Grand saying he saw someone who looked like Mr. Fannin about the time that Mr. Enright was killed.
And what do you say to that?
Well, now, death was supposed to have been about 10:30, right?
Give or take a few minutes.
Did you ask Janet Enright where she was about then?
What?
She's my alibi, Mr. Jones. She was with me. Ask your client.
I've been telling George that he can rest easy now. He's been exonerated.
An arrest isn't exactly a conviction, you know. Mr. Fannin tells me that when you left the auditorium that night, you and he talked about the tournament until he left you at your door.
That's true.
And you left a little after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it's about 15 minutes from the auditorium to Wyndham House. I walked it today. And another 15 minutes back to the administration building. Let's say a few minutes for talk. That's about 45 minutes, right?
Mr. Jones, the authorities have gone into all of this. They have proof of what Mr. Fannin did.
It's not proof if Mr. Fannin couldn't be there. Now, I'm practically convinced that he couldn't have taken you to your door, gotten back to your offices, gotten up and struggled with your brother, and had death occur at the time the coroner said it did.
I'm sorry, but it's really out of my hands. And I must go.
Miss Enright, very little honor will accrue to your brother's name if it's done at the expense of an innocent man.
Of course not. But how can anyone be sure of how long we were talking, or of how fast we walked? You brought up time and the clock. No one has suggested that Mr. Fannin, who is an athlete, might well have run back across campus.
If you run to a place you intend to rob, witnesses are inclined to remember it.
Mr. Jones, you and I, we both believe in logic.
Yes, Miss Enright, that we do.
All right. What motive could there have been for this crime, except money? Ron Fannin was in my office trying to steal $2,000. Now, it was money that he knew was there because he had given it to me. There is no other motive. And now you must excuse me. I have a million things to do.
Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon.
You certainly keep things pretty around here.
Well, thank you very much.
How often you water this time of year?
Oh, I usually turn the sprinklers on about evening this time of the year for about an hour and a half.
You'd think that earth would have settled more, wouldn't you?
I know that some of you are not going to be happy with these exam schedules, but I've done the fairest I can. Some of you will have 2 finals in 1 day. It can't be helped.
Yes, boy.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Stern. That was quite a job of detective work you young fellows did.
Oh, well, Charles deserves all the credit, sir.
No, it was a real collaboration. Like a copy of the Gazette, Mr. Jones?
Thank you.
Is Miss Enright expecting you, Mr. Jones?
Well, I'd like to talk to her if she isn't too busy.
Janet, Mr. Jones is in the outer office.
How's the case coming?
Oh, Judge Perry has set Monday for the preliminary hearing. No bail.
Mr. Jones.
Miss Enright, I've been thinking what you said about a motive. Now, what if there was something else inside that filing cabinet that somebody wanted more than money?
Here is a check for your services. I think you will find it more than satisfactory.
Well, I'll be glad to take it when I feel that I've followed through. But right now, if you don't mind, I'd like to have one more look at what's inside that cabinet and a chance to ask a few more questions.
I'm afraid I'll have to say no. Our school has had more than its share of scandal. I see no point in raking around a problem that the police have already solved. At least to my satisfaction. To put it bluntly, your services are no longer required.
I feel just like a conspirator, and I can't say I like it. Let's go in here.
Yep, more of the same. All three of them. Charles Lomax, Paul Thayer, William Grant. All came to Enright with poor or failing grades. Then sometime in the second semester, the grades shot up to A, even straight A's.
Spectacular, not all that unusual, especially when boys decide to knuckle down to work. And when some students come to a demanding prep school, Mr. Jones, they learn to test better.
Or when they happen to know the answers to the exams beforehand. I thought it would shock you when I said that.
I don't know what you're getting at.
All these final exams, questions and answers, were they always kept in that one filing cabinet with the combination lock?
Yes, as long as I've been. Then it wasn't the money the thief was after. It was the answer to the exam questions.
Mm-hmm.
And you think somebody beside Mr. Fannin was the one?
That would explain a lot.
Cheating during an exam is one thing. It's bad enough, but I can't believe this, Mr. Jones.
How much longer are these exams going to last today?
What? Oh, 25 minutes. This is the last one.
And when will they know the result?
They're tabbed by computer. They'll be posted on the bulletin boards by 4:30. Shh. Mr. Jones, come here. I must get back, and you shouldn't be here either.
One more favor. It's important. I want you to fail Charles Lomax and Willie Grant, but not Paul Thayer.
Why, I have no right to tamper with any grades. Their entire futures depend on these tests.
Maybe Ron Fannin's does too.
What good would it do?
Suppose one made the usual 95, 98 on the test, but the other two didn't. Then it would be obvious that the guy that made the high grades had pulled a fast one on his buddies. And if that happens, we might see some fireworks.
Charles is the ringleader, Mr. Jones. Shouldn't he be the one to get the best marks?
No. He's the ringleader, as you say, because he's smart enough not to do the dirty work. He gets stooges to do that. And Paul Thayer is exactly the type that Charles would pick.
Hey, I passed! Way to go! How are you supposed to remember all those dumb dates?
I thought you'd be gone by now, Mr. Jones.
If I'm trespassing, I apologize. But as I told you, I wanted to get to the bottom of this. Get at the truth is what I said. And I would certainly think you would, too.
Yes, you told me what you assume. I'd like to know how you expect to prove it.
Out of the mouths of babes, I hope.
Victor, I'd like to see you for a minute.
How did you do, fellas?
We aced it. 2 98s and a 99. Very fair test, Mr. Stern.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jones. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't cheat like that. I just couldn't take the chance.
Willie.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, you know, with finals like these, we can get in any college we want. We gonna make it Stanford?
I was promised a smashing Italian convertible, and I certainly can't ride around with the top down all year at Harvard.
How are you riding around on that road down by the cliff where George Enright's body was found?
Miss Enright told all of us on student desk duty you didn't have permission to be on school property, Mr. Jones.
Want to call a cop?
Actually, we all have something to do, and...
You have nowhere to go, Paul.
Thanks, Lomax. I like your style. You see a problem, you want to meet it head on.
You know, I love the old philosopher, aw shucks bit you use on people, Jones. But why don't we get down to the nitty-gritty?
Suits me fine, except that this doesn't exactly concern you that personally, Lomax. I wanted to talk to Thayer here, but you can go if you want.
No! I mean,
well, why not? You're all for one for all anyway, aren't you? This is just yours, Paul, and I don't see how anyone else could even know about it. It's a photostatic copy of your check that was found in Fannon's fireplace, with numbered 1007, written on the 12th. That's 2 days before Mr. Enright died. I can't figure how come 3 days later, on the 15th, you wrote 2 checks, one numbered 1006 and one 1005. Earlier numbers. Something fishy about the date.
Well, it could happen. I mean, if I wrote it out of order, it could happen.
But you didn't write them out of order, did you, Paul? You dated it 3 days before you wrote it, didn't you?
Yes.
His bank wouldn't give out that kind of information. What did you do, Jones? Bribe some stupid clerk?
No, I just took a shot in the dark. And Paul gave me the answer. Something else kind of funny. This Gazette you gave me the other day.
What about it?
Well, Paul, This picture you took of the people at the funeral, take a look at it. Seem a little unusual to you, particularly Fannin.
No.
Well, it's kind of small, so I made an enlargement. See, all the buttons are on the Wimbledon jacket. How do you figure?
Let me see that.
No, Paul, you tell me. How could all the buttons be on the jacket when one of them was lost 3 days ago at the cliff?
Fannin simply sewed on a new button. After the murder.
And tore it off days later when the police searched his apartment. Does that seem right, Paul?
He sewed it on badly, I suppose.
Look, I really got to call my family. I promise.
I will wait, Willie. Now, about George Enright's coffin. The people at the cemetery are absolutely mystified. They can't figure how bits of earth got inside the coffin. You see, it was sealed at the funeral home. Yesterday, I got a court order to dig it up, and we found dirt. Dirt from the cemetery inside the coffin. So somebody must have opened it, right? Opened it after the burial.
How could anybody do that?
Have you got any ideas, Paul?
I don't know.
Come on, tell us what really happened, Paul.
Please, Mr. Jones, was an accident that night.
Keep your mouth shut, you stupid idiot.
Please, you got to believe me. I didn't mean to kill him. It was an accident. I told you we should call the police. I told you should have let me.
I'll do that for you now, Paul.
Can't you take the pressure? Can't you keep any cool at all? Everything was working perfect. Everything has worked perfect for years, damn it. And in 5 minutes, you blow everything I've set up for you.
Get me the sheriff's office, please. Lieutenant Roth, if he's on duty.
Yeah, me. Damn it, me. They'd be nowhere without me. You know who figured out how to get those examinations? I did. 3 years ago. I broke that combination. You know how? I used my brain. I figured it out. You know, I knew that it'd have to be something simple. Something right in front of everyone's nose. Janet Enright's birthday. June 18th, 1932. 6/18/1932. She's not 38 like she tells everyone. She's 40 years old. Born in 1932. 6/18/1932. And you ruined everything.
Thank heaven he's all right now. I was so anxious to clear my brother that I let myself be blind to everything and everyone. And those boys. Where did I go wrong?
Where do we all go wrong? Find problems like this in the slums of the ghetto, you're not surprised, but...
It happens in the best of families. Even here, where they have all the advantages. Well, there's a lot to do. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Bye, Miss Enright.
Barnaby Jones, starring Buddy Epson, also starring Lee Merriweather, with guest stars Nick Nolte, Sheila Larkin, Mark Singer, Simon Scott. Tonight's episode, Trap Play.
And now the climactic end of last year's most unbelievable football season. Behind by 5 points. The final moments of the game slipping away. Quarterback Mark Rainey fades back. It's a long, arching pass. Tanner's got it. Touchdown. Another beautiful play from the magical combination of Mark Rainey to Feather Tanner.
Baby, now you tell me, how come is it every time close-ups, it's always you, all-American boys, and never one of us pretty linemen?
Maynard, that's because linemen don't just work in the pit. They're so ugly they should live in one.
Ooh, Feather, if that...
Some kind of marriage. I work like a dog so you could spend the paycheck. You couldn't care less if I had a heart attack tomorrow, as long as the life insurance was paid up.
Ken, that's not true.
Keep on. It'll be true.
Your play, babe.
I'd rather play with her.
Nice.
Anybody using your pad in the next couple hours?
Come on. I thought you were swearing off that after the last hassle with your father-in-law.
I have sworn off. Beginning tomorrow morning.
Look, I don't know.
Now, come on. After all the things I've done for you, Feather.
Name's Feather Tanner, ma'am. I've been sent here to ask why a beautiful lady like you is sitting all alone.
I don't understand.
Well, see that handsome devil over there? That's my friend, Mark Rainey. He's a little shy, but he's very eager to meet you.
Mark Rainey, the football player.
I can vouch for him being a gentleman, so why don't you two have a drink together on me? My place is up in the hills, 1298 Clover Drive. Very quiet, very private. Mark will meet you there.
Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, pal, you dig liar's poker?
Yeah.
Well, I need somebody to take my hand. My face is an open book. Right now, my pocketbook.
Well, sure, Feather. I'll be right with you.
Ken, would you like to hear...
Later, I'm gonna play liar's poker with the boys. Why don't you have another drink?
Sit right down over here.
All right, all right. right, let me have a little more room. Come on in. Well, boys, it's time to go home. I'll see you at practice tomorrow, huh?
Okay, hang loose.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Now, why aren't you inside, relaxing by the warm light of Feather's nice fireplace?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't think I should be here at all. Driving up here gave me time to remember I'm married.
Well, that's a very serious condition. But there are ways to ease the pain.
Don't think I'm as liberated as I thought I was. Afraid I used you to get even with my husband. Don't be angry.
I won't. If you promise not to feel bad. Okay?
Yeah.
Look, I've got to go inside and get my playbook, so why don't you come in and we'll have a drink as a nightcap, and then we'll both drive back into town. Cheers. You know, before I give you back to your husband, there's one thing I'd like to find out.
What's that?
I was right. They taste as good as they look.
Mark, look, I am flattered. And Mark, no. Please, let's stop now. I want to remember a nice man and a nice evening.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Thank you.
Look, we may never get this chance again.
What was the argument about?
Nothing sensible. I just got loud and nasty like I always do when I'm drunk. I don't blame Marcia for walking out on me.
Well, I don't pretend to be a marriage expert, but it seems to me a simple apology could do you a lot more good than a car full of detectives.
I wish I could apologize. Marcia still hasn't come home. It's been 2 days.
Did you try her friends and relatives?
Nobody's seen or heard from her. I've even called the police, the hospitals. No word.
Maybe she's just trying to teach you a lesson.
That's what I thought. But she knew her brother Pete was going to be in town yesterday on his way to Japan. Now, she hasn't seen him in years, and she wouldn't have missed him for anything. But she never showed. I'm worried something's happened to her, something serious.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Harrison. I'll poke around and see what I can find. And if your wife should come back before you hear from me, you take my fee and buy her a great big bunch of American Beauty roses.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you need to know?
No, not at the moment. If there is, I'll call you.
It could be that Mrs. Harrison is just exerting her independence, even at the expense of not seeing her brother.
By hiding out? Doesn't sound like the liberated females I've been reading about. If you need me, I'll be at the end run.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, honey.
Just in time for lunch.
Oh, thanks, Jenny, but I just dropped by for a minute to go over some business with Mark.
Oh, okay, but if you change your mind, I'll just be inside.
How's it going, Paul? Well, not too bad. These are the proposals I'm submitting to the ad agency next week. Personal appearances, product endorsements, your own off-season TV show.
I really appreciate what you're doing for me and Jennifer.
That's okay, Mark, as long as you realize that the ad people aren't just buying a quarterback. They're buying a symbol, somebody the youth of America can look up to.
What are you getting at, Paul?
There's a morals clause in those contracts. If your personal behavior isn't up to the highest standards, you could blow the whole deal.
If you're worried about me playing around, those days are long over with.
I came by to see you Sunday night. Jen said you were asleep. I didn't see your car in the garage.
Oh, my car? I lent it to one of my buddies on Sunday. He wanted to see how it felt before he bought one.
Jennifer loves you. I don't want her hurt, understand?
Are you kidding?
Call me when you've gone over those, okay?
There you go. What are you doing these days, Ben?
Just between us old-timers?
My ears are sealed.
Conducting a private investigation.
Gumshoe for the commissioner's office, huh? What a waste of a great baseball mind. Man like you've put into the game what you have. You should be managing in the big leagues.
Oh, I don't know. I think it'd be easier to do investigation than to try to teach these new kids who Eddie Basinski was.
I'm with you.
This lady was in here a couple of nights ago. You see her?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember her. She and her husband come in a lot. He's a big sports fan, and she's a real knockout, huh?
You see her leave?
Yeah, but not with her old man. It looked for a minute like Feather Tanner was going to try to put a move on her. He was at her table before she left, but then she took off alone.
Feather Tanner, the wide receiver for the Cougars?
Hey, you're a football fan too, huh? Way to go, Benji.
Where would I find Feather Tanner?
Well, I'm not supposed to give that information, but Feather's a great guy. I know he wouldn't mind helping an old-timer. He's got a pad up in the hills, right at the top of Clover Drive.
I appreciate that, Mr.
Hennessy. Jack.
Jackie? If Eddie Basinski comes in, tell him the milk's on me.
Gotcha.
It's open. If you're from the LA Dispatch, you can quote me. Feather Tanner says we are going all the way to the Super Bowl this season.
Well, I'm afraid I'll never be able to report that. You see, the closest I ever came to being a sports writer was covering horseshoes for the Greenville High School Clarion.
Horseshoes? You're talking my language. I'm a country boy myself. Come on in.
Thank you.
Mr.
Jones. Barnaby Jones. I'm a private investigator.
Oh. What can I do for you, Mr. Jones?
Well, I was hoping you might have some information about the lady I'm looking for, Marcia Harrison. She was in the end run Sunday night.
A lot of chicks come in and out of that place.
Jack Hennessy said that you were the last person seen talking to her before she left. She hasn't been heard from since.
Oh. Yeah, now that you mention it, I do remember talking to someone who looks like that, but we just had a couple words together is all, and then she took off by herself.
By herself?
She was alone when she left. You figure this chick's maybe got herself into some sort of trouble?
I certainly hope not. You sure you don't have any idea where she may have gone?
I'd like to help, honest, but that's all I know.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you score a lot of touchdowns this year.
You have any trouble getting game tickets, you let me know.
Thank you, I'll do that.
Hello? Just a minute. It's for you, Mr. Jones.
Hello?
Barnaby, Lieutenant Biddle just called. A police helicopter spotted a car at the bottom of Clover Canyon, which is about a half a mile from where you are. They said it looks like the car that Marcia Harrison was driving.
Thank you, Betty. I'll get right over there. Thanks.
Something wrong?
I don't know yet. Police may have found Mrs. Harrison's car at the bottom of a canyon nearby.
All right, hold it, boys. Put it down right there.
It's Marcia Harrison, all right. You say it might not have been an accident.
Well, there are no skid marks, which means she didn't even try to use her brakes. And I remember you telling me about the fight she had with her husband.
Suicide?
It's a possibility. All right, boy.
Wonder why she bothered to turn off the ignition if she drove this over the side deliberately.
You're right. I don't know. You got any ideas on this, Barnaby?
Not yet. If I get any, I'll let you know.
Come on, let's go over to your place and work on those new plays.
Where were you last night? I called you half a dozen times.
Jenny and I went up to her dad's for dinner. Why, what's up?
Didn't you hear the news? It was on TV last night. It was all over the papers this morning.
No, what news?
That chick from the end run, Marcia Harrison, she's dead. Killed in a car crash.
I didn't see the papers. I mean, that's too bad, but that's no reason to go to pieces.
Mark, they found her car not far from my place. And the night the police say she was killed, you were with her.
No, I wasn't.
What are you talking about? You went up there to meet her.
No, she never showed up. I thought she got cold feet, so I went on home. She must have gone off the road on her way up there.
You mean she never got there?
Hey, come on, buddy. Now, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Look, I know how you feel. I feel lousy, too. But it was an accident.
In the absence of evidence to the contrary, we're ruling it an accident, Mr. Harrison.
It wasn't an accident. I mean, I killed her. If I hadn't been so hard on her, she'd still be alive.
No point in blaming yourself, Mr. Harrison. Could have happened any place, any time. Are those her things?
And this is the apparel she was wearing. And those are the other items we found on her. I had them sent down.
I know it's hard for you, Mr. Harrison, but you mind looking through them and see if they're all here?
Her scarf, it's missing.
Sure she was wearing it?
Positive. It was her favorite. I gave it to her on our first wedding anniversary.
This key wasn't attached to the others. Kind of a unique design. Is this for any special purpose?
I don't know. I've never seen it before.
I think maybe I have.
What's the matter, old buddy? You look like you just got traded to the Timbuktu Bobcats.
Mark? This scarf? I found it behind the bar.
One of your girlfriends must have left it up here, huh?
No. I haven't had anybody up here since training started. Mark, you sure that Harrison chick wasn't up here Sunday night?
Now, wait a minute. I told you she never showed up here.
Yeah, I know what you told me. But look at this. Looks like blood. She was here, wasn't she? You've been conning me, Mark. That's gotta be it.
Oh, wait a minute, Feather. Hey, look, I did not know she was going to be some kind of a nut. See, first of all, she come on to me, and she was all eyes. And then she come up with this guilty wife bit. I just didn't even know what she wanted of me, you know? Well, things, they got out of hand. She tripped over them stairs and fell down and hit her head.
Oh, man, why didn't you tell me?
Because, Feather, I didn't want you to get mixed up in it. All I could think about was getting rid of the body so nobody knew what happened.
Are you crazy? You can't cover up something like this.
I have to. Listen, if this gets out, they'll clobber me with a morals clause. I'll lose $1 million deal.
You'll get into worse trouble trying to lie your way out of this. That detective who was here, Barnaby Jones, I think he's already onto something. And what if him or the cops start asking more questions?
Then you just tell them you don't know anything.
You want me to lie to the police?
You're my buddy, aren't you? I'd do the same for you if your life was on the line.
But she's dead.
I know she's dead. I know that. All I'm asking is that you cover for me.
I can't lie. Even at liar's poker, I lose my shirt every time I try to bluff. I can't do it, Mark. I can't.
Yeah, well, I guess you never could lie, old buddy. All right, I'll call the police and tell them what happened.
I'll stick by you. You'll see. It's gonna come out all right.
Yeah, sure, buddy, sure. Come on, why don't we get dressed? What do you say?
You know, I found you can always count on people in the clutch. And one thing's for sure, you can count on Ginny. She's so mad for you, she'll stand by you no matter what. Sure, she'll be sore for a while, but you'll see. She'll get over it.
How you doing? Well, you're here to see Feather, too, huh?
If he's on?
Well, I spoke to him a couple hours ago. He said he's going to be in all day. I just stopped by to pick up my playbook. I'm Mark Rainey.
I'm a fan of yours. I'm Barnaby Jones.
Barnaby Jones. Say, aren't you the detective Feather was telling me about?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that missing girl?
I'm afraid so. She was killed in a car crash.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. Well, I guess your job's all done now, huh?
Not necessarily. There's a possibility her death was not an accident. In that case, my job is just beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. That's weird. Feather wouldn't tell me to come by and then take off without saying something.
Let's try this.
Hey, Feather! Oh, my God. Oh. Hey, Mr. Jones! Mr. Jones!
Don't touch anything.
Get on that right away? Well, we'll have to wait for the autopsy report, but offhand, I'd say death occurred less than 2 hours ago. Apparently, he was trying to lift these weights, and they dropped it and fell on his head.
250 pounds? It's an awful lot of weight for a wide receiver to have been lifting.
Wide, narrow, what's the difference? If an eighth of a ton falls on your head, it's bad luck and goodbye.
Why, Feather? Why did he have to die?
I was hoping you'd help me answer that question.
What do you mean?
Feather was the last person to be seen with Marcia Harrison before she left the end run that Sunday night. She had his key in her purse.
Well, I guess I'm not giving away any secrets by telling you that Feather was quite a ladies' man. She was probably on her way up here to meet him.
Well, that's what I thought, too, until I found out that Marcia left at 8:15 and Feather hung around playing liar's poker till about 2.
He just probably got caught up in the game.
Mr. Rainey, when I was a young man, I used to get caught up in the game of horseshoes. My friends and I would pitch horseshoes for hours until a nice-looking young lady'd come by and throw us a smile. And then suddenly the game would stop in midair. I don't think Feather ever had a date with Marcia.
Wait a minute. You said yourself she was driving up here with Feather's key.
That puzzled me for a while, too, and then I remembered that Feather was a football player. Football is a tricky game. Take you, for instance. You use every fake, reverse, and decoy in the book to get the other team to run after the wrong man.
I don't quite follow your meaning.
Feather could have talked with Marcia, but she could have left with someone else. You were at the end run that night. Have you any idea who that may have been?
No, I left early. I'm not much for nightlife. I got myself a nice wife at home.
What about one of your teammates? Somebody could have had a key to this place.
Maynard Bates, he has a key. He and Feather used to do a lot of running around together. No, wait a minute. Maynard wouldn't be mixed up in a woman's death. I'll stake my life on that.
You're a true friend. Nevertheless, I think I ought to have a talk with Mr. Bates. What time did you leave the end run?
Mr. Jones, I'll level with you. We were all drinking. And with me, one shot's enough to make me see pink footballs. 2 drinks, and I couldn't even tell you what team I was playing for. All I know is I crawled into a taxi and went on home.
By yourself?
I wasn't in shape for company.
Anybody who would verify that you went straight home?
Mr. Jones, you've got to understand. I wasn't too anxious to have witnesses. Now, if the coach got wind I was bombed the night before practice, I'd be in bad trouble.
Today between 10 and 12. Where were you then?
I went home. Why are you asking me all these questions?
2 people are dead. I'm trying to find out how and why.
You think I had something to do with this?
Not necessarily, but you and Feather were friends. You had a key to his place.
Other guys had keys to Feather's pad.
Who?
I'd rather not say.
Well, I can understand how you feel, but hiding from the truth is kind of like turning your back on a tornado. It still won't stop it from blowing you away.
Feather gave a key to Mark Rainey a long time ago, but I'm sure he never used it since he and Jenny got married.
Anyone else?
Well, I can't be sure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bates.
What's wrong, officer?
Did I see your driver's license? Whose car is this?
What's mine?
Did you know you're driving without rear license plates?
I don't get it. I wonder how that happened.
Can I see your registration?
Yeah. That's funny. I always keep it here.
What kind of pills are these?
I don't know. I never saw them before. I don't know how they got in there.
Hey, stand up, please. Stand up. Put your hands against the car.
Feather's dead?
Apparently he had an accident in his home.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry to be the bearer of this kind of news. I was hoping to talk to Mr. Rainey.
Mark, why?
My client's wife was killed several days ago. There may be a connection between her death and Feather's.
What does Mark have to do with it?
I don't know that he has anything to do with it. I just want to know where he was and some other people on Sunday night between 9 and 12. That's the time the coroner said that Mrs. Harrison died.
Well, there's no need to bother Mark about that. He was with me.
Jenny.
We had dinner at 9, and then we talked, and we watched some television, and we went to bed. Is it enough for you, Mr. Jones?
Yes, I think that's all I need. For now. Sorry to bother you, Miss Rainey.
Jennifer, I came by Sunday night. You told me Mark was sleeping. He wasn't even home. Now, you lied to me. Now you've lied to that detective.
Dad, please.
Mark's been running around again, hasn't he? When are you going to face up to the truth about him?
What truth do you want me to face, Daddy? The truth that your daughter's lucky to have any man, yet alone a Mark Rainey?
Hey, Barnaby.
Hello. Betty said you were trying to reach me.
Yeah, I think we found our murderer. The coroner called with the autopsy report on Feather. Your hunch was right. The death wound was caused by a blow from a much smaller object.
You say you know who did it?
Probably the same man that killed Marcia Harrison. Maynard Bates. I'm ready to book you.
You sure you're not making a mistake? I talked to Bates today. He didn't sound like a man who was covering up for a murder.
We have the evidence. A patrolman stopped Maynard's car. The rear license plate was missing. The officer found these pills in the glove compartment, brought him in. I spotted the scarf, called Ken Harrison. He said it belonged to his wife.
What does Bates say?
He still claims he was at home at the time Mrs. Harrison was killed, but he can't prove it. Now, my guess is he took her to Feather's pad. Things got rough, and she ended up dead.
How did Feather end up dead?
Well, there's still no direct evidence linking Bates to Feather's murder, but probably Feather found out what happened, threatened to expose Bates, and Bates killed him to keep him quiet.
Very neat theory.
Which you don't buy.
Mind if I have a talk with Bates?
Feather was my friend. How could I kill him?
You're not being charged with killing Feather. At least not yet. But you are charged with the murder of Mrs. Harrison. I have to admit, things don't look too good there. They found her scarf in your car.
I don't know how it got there. All I know is I didn't kill anybody. Look, maybe I don't have any more brains than it takes to run into people, but I'm not a killer.
You know, we've been very lucky.
How so?
This could have been a very tough case. I mean, we could have been in bad shape if that license plate hadn't fallen off of Bates's car.
What's your point?
Well, the point is that if the license plate hadn't fallen off of Bates's car, the officer wouldn't have stopped him.
But he did. And he found no registration in those pills.
And then he took him down to the station house where somebody could notice the scarf that was wrapped around the pills. Yes, sir. A lot of lucky things have been happening to us. I wonder if we deserved them.
Barnaby, if I don't book Bates, I'd be guilty of nonfeasance.
Mind if I borrow one of these?
What for?
Don't worry, I'm not going to swallow it.
Barnaby, I'll bet you a case of my mother's fudge we have a complete confession in 24 hours.
Lieutenant, much as I like your mother's fudge, I'm going to have to turn down that bet because I think we're going to have a confession, too. And this little pill might just get it for us.
Oh, Mark, thank heavens you're here. You heard about Feather?
Yeah, the team got the word this afternoon. I feel like the whole stadium caved in on me.
Mark, there was a private detective here, a man by the name of Barnaby Jones. He wanted to know where you were Sunday night between the hours of 9 and midnight when some woman was killed near Feather's house.
What'd you tell him?
I told him you were home with me.
Well, that's good. He won't bother us anymore.
But you weren't home. I lied to that detective. Daddy knows that I lied. Now, I made him promise that he wouldn't say anything, but we can't go on telling one lie after another.
Now, Jenny, you're making a big thing out of nothing. Now, I told you, I don't fool around anymore.
Do you think I care about that now? That detective was talking about murder.
You think I'm involved?
I just want you to tell me the truth.
Well, just who's gonna believe the truth? All right, I was at Feather's house that night. I went there to get my playbook. The doorbell rang and it was this woman Feather's been seen. Feather wasn't home, so she thought I'd fill in for her. She came on pretty strong. I pushed her away. She fell down. She hit her head.
and she was dead.
Why didn't you call the police?
Well, even if the police did believe that, do you think that your father would have believed it? He would have taken that agency contract, torn it up, and thrown it right in my face.
We don't need my father or the contract. We have our own lives.
What lives, Jenny? You washing floors and me selling shoelaces?
You're a football player. You have the best years of your life ahead of you.
Jenny, I don't have anything. I'm all washed up. I couldn't even make it through the opening game this fall.
What are you talking about?
My arm, it's gone. I heard it in the playoffs. I thought it was just a strain, but it got worse. Well, you saw me at practice when I missed those passes. That's when I knew for sure. I can't throw anymore. I'm finished.
Why didn't you say anything?
Do you think they would have signed a $1 million endorsement contract with a washed-up quarterback? All I could do was string them along until they signed that contract. Then they'd be committed. Then I'd have a job, money, a future. But Jenny, if your father takes that away from me, I'm nothing. That contract is the only chance I have. Jenny, I never wanted to go near that woman. I swear that.
I believe you. It's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right.
How'd you make out?
Your idea paid off. I just had breakfast with Sam Dudley. He used to play with the Cougars when Rainey first started. Seems that Mr. Rainey was quite a swinger then, and the rumor is he may still be.
Oh? Dr. Stanley, this is Barnaby Jones. About that pill I discussed with you. I just ran an analysis on it, and it turns out to be diazepam. It's a muscle relaxer. Do you have a list of the Cougar team members who are receiving that medication now? Thank you. Yeah? Uh-huh. Thank you, Doctor. Well, that's quite an interesting list the doctor gave me.
Who's on it?
Not so much who's on it as who isn't.
Well, I'll see you later.
Okay.
You have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Morning, Mr. Rainey.
Morning, Mr. Jones.
Thought you'd be happy to hear the good news. Maynard was released from jail. They dropped all the charges against him.
What charges?
He was a suspect in Marcia Harrison's murder. And Feather Tanner's.
Feather was murdered?
Whoever did it tried to pin it on Maynard Bates. He wrapped some pills in Marcia's scarf and hid it in Maynard's car. Then he made sure it would be discovered.
How do you know it was a frame?
Only 3 of the team were on that pill list. Maynard wasn't on it because he was allergic. 2 of them had airtight alibis. That just leaves one name, Mark Rainey.
But you said yourself that Feather was killed Wednesday morning between 10 and 12. Well, I was at home with my wife Wednesday morning. Wasn't I, Jenny?
Just like you were home when Marcia Harrison was murdered?
Jenny?
Feather was your friend. How many more killings am I supposed to lie about, Mark? He wasn't home Sunday night or Wednesday morning. I don't know where he was. I don't care.
Well, that's a very interesting theory, Mr. Jones. What do the police say about it?
Well, all I told the police was that the pills didn't belong to Maynard. I figured you'd want to tell them the rest of it.
Why so generous?
You used to be a big hero. To me, to a lot of people. I figure that still means something.
I appreciate that. Well, honey, I guess I better go down to that police station.
Mark?
You better come with me, Mr. Jones.
Mark, no! We had everything. I loved you.
I'm sorry, Jenny. I guess it wasn't enough.
Call the police and an ambulance.
Four sevens. Mr. Jones.
Debate.
I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you. This is my daughter-in-law, Betty.
Hi, Betty. It's nice to meet you. Please, come in. Sit down.
Thank you.
Jack, you give my friends anything they want.
Well, Mr. Bates, since it's on you, I'll have an extra tall glass of milk.
How did I know?
Well, I feel really reckless. I will have a glass of milk also.
Okay.
But I think I'll have a cherry with it.
Boy, you are feeling reckless, aren't you?
I'll take mine straight like Mr. Jones.
Takes an old ball player to handle a good stiff milk. Right, Benji?
Right, Jackie boy. Well, to Eddie Basinski.
Eddie Basinski? Wasn't he the only major league shortstop ever to wear eyeglasses on the field?
Eddie, you amaze me. How do you know that?
It's a secret between me and the old-timers.